We've got a full schedule today. First off, as always, we're going to start with a prayer. That's a hint. You want to? Okay. Glenn, could I get you to do the honors on our prayer, please?
Sure.
It's Glenn Cope, Dr. Glenn Cope.
Would you bow, please? Our Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for this beautiful day that we have. We want to thank you for all the blessings you supply to us, and especially we want to thank you for the blessings of the Supreme Court rulings the last day, too. To pray, Father, that our country will be more in tune with your will and your guidance. And we pray, Father, that each one of us will always support what you say is right. And Father, we pray that this organization, the OK2A, will also always support what is right in your eyes. May we then support them. Pray for the candidates that are running, and pray, Father, that they will always look to you for guidance as they represent us and support our communities and lead our state. We pray that in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Glenn. Thanks, Suzanne. Gary Miles, where are you at?
Right here.
Oh, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Gary is the local commander of it's Post 1201, correct?
Correct.
1201, the local VFW chapter. Thank you for leading us in that. Before we get to the main part of the meeting, I imagine some of you, maybe most of you, are aware Don Spencer and I were interviewed a couple of weeks ago. They interviewed Don for 3 or 4 hours and interviewed me for 4 hours and 15 minutes. And they cut it down to a 7.5-minute spot. And Steve, have you got that up ready to go? We're going to show it here, and just so if you haven't seen it, you'll get a chance to see it. And I always enjoy seeing my face on TV. That's the main reason. So.
This right here, that's an, I'll let you hold it. You want to hold that? That's a knife right there.
That's our President Don
Push your thumb up and push that button up right there. Just push it up. Come on, toughen up. Come on. Come on.
Well, I'm left-handed.
Are you? There you go.
Whoa. Okay.
All right, and then you pull it down and it retracts. Those were illegal till 2016, and I made sure that they were legal to carry and then carry them in the state capitol.
Why?
Because that's for an act of self-defense. In my vehicle, I have an AR-15. I carry a firearm on me virtually everywhere I go. That is a 9mm compact Smith & Wesson.
And then you got a body cam.
I got a body cam.
Don Spencer took over the Oklahoma Second Amendment Association in 2016. The group claims it's helped pass almost 40 different pieces of pro-gun legislation.
We are not merely a Second Amendment group, a gun group. We are a liberty group that realizes it may take guns to maintain that liberty.
Many Americans saw the second elementary school massacre in a decade and thought there should be more restrictions on guns. We wanted to know why these guys saw the same thing and thought there should be more guns, more openly, and everywhere.
Can you explain, what are you afraid of? Because to an outsider, it's like we have all Republican state government. Like, why?
Well, afraid's the wrong word. Okay. Concern. It's not so much about guns, it's about our God-given rights. A good guy or gal with a gun is the only answer to a bad guy with a gun.
I've heard that said a lot, but I don't know that it's true.
Can you give me a logical reason that it wouldn't be true?
It didn't work in Uvalde.
It was a gun-free zone. It was in a school.
There are police officers.
Yeah, there were 19 police officers who had orders from their bosses to stand down.
We wanted to talk more with Thompson, so we went to his hometown the next day.
I think I'm the only person in OK2A with a Prius. I get kidded about it all the time. Every time there's a shooting,
the left immediately starts beating the drum, more gun control, more gun control, more gun control.
Is it possible it's because they don't want there to be as many shootings?
Yes, I'll admit that that is exactly their motivation. Our basic disagreement is how to stop the shootings. There is no way that they can get all the guns. There's more guns than people in America. So it's a problem that's going to be there forever, no matter what kind of gun control you put on. Unless, do you want a police state? Do you want people do you want authorities?
But I feel like you're proposing a private police state.
Not private police.
If everyone everywhere is carrying guns all the time, you don't feel that's a type of police state?
They're not out there policing. They're out there prepared for self-defense or to defend others.
In Joe Biden's world, I would not be able to defend myself.
Is he proposing an elimination of all guns?
Yes.
Is he?
Yes.
I didn't catch that announcement.
That's the ultimate goal here. You know it's the goal. I know it's the goal. Let's
I don't know that.
Yes, you do.
Terry Thompson right here in the front row. Yeah, he's a rock star.
So what would you do to stop mass shootings?
We got to quit blaming what's used for the weapon in these types of things and go to deal with the person. People are confused how many genders there are. They're confused on what bathroom they're supposed to use. They're confused on whether a life is of value even if it's not been born.
I mean, are you confused on what restroom to use?
No, but we had to pass laws in Oklahoma to make sure boys will use boys' restrooms, girls will use girls.
And what does it have to do with an AR-15?
Because if you don't respect life, you're not going to respect anything.
Okay, so you see mass shootings as, you know, a cultural trickle-down effect from abortion and transgender rights?
Yes, actually, it's the breakdown of the family.
In several states, red flag laws allow courts to temporarily confiscate the guns of someone believed to be a danger to themselves or others. Oklahoma passed an anti-red flag law in 2020.
How do you propose, if not this red flag law, keeping guns out of the hands of the mentally ill?
By the mentally ill being segregated from society if they're a threat to themselves or society. We may have to go back to institutionalization, which was left back in the 80s.
But like, would it be before they committed a violent crime, or?
Well, I don't know how you would ever stop someone that's given no signal that just goes to decide to commit a violent crime. I don't know how you do that.
You might be wondering, do these guys ever fear that their loved ones could be victims of a mass shooting? The answer is yes. They think about it all the time.
By the way, my children were home educated. We had drills at our own home for someone trying to break into our house.
What were those like?
Well, I saw someone show up on our porch at about 11 or 12 o'clock one night, unannounced.
Okay. And so did your kids in that moment prepare your firearms?
Yes, because when I looked through the door, I said, gun up. My wife goes to one room, she grabs a gun, the kids go back. My daughter she was, I don't know, 9, 10, 11. She had a .32 caliber in her bedroom, and we had them gunned up and prepared. When we trained them that if they hear my voice, obviously it's time to lay the weapon down before I went to that part of the house. If they didn't hear my voice, someone was going to get shot, or my wife's voice, or their sibling's voice.
Okay, so part of the drill is you walk through the house and what you're saying, like, I'm walking towards your bedroom.
Yeah, I'm waiting for their acknowledgement because I don't get shot.
Wow. See, that to me seems like a scary way to live.
Well, the scarier way to live is what would it be like had the person penetrated inside the house and harmed me? What would that be? What would that psychology be for my children?
We went to a gun range to get the views of people who shoot but are not activists.
I have guns at home. I'm at the gun range to go shoot guns now. But I need to go back to before when it was not as easy to get a gun.
We have two guns. We have a 20 gauge shotgun for home defense, and then we just got an AR-15. There's a lot of common sense gun laws and stuff that I support, that a lot of people I know support. You know, I've held the same kind of views on guns for a while, although I have never necessarily had the strong desire to go out and purchase and own a gun until recently.
There's so much division in the United States right now, and I don't know how you fix that. But you can't have people throwing the gasoline on the fire too. You know?
And you think gun restrictions would be gas on the fire?
Yes.
We're not gun nuts, we're liberty nuts. The only reason we're concerned about guns is that's the only thing that protects the rest of the constitutional rights. And that's why the founders put it in there. And
why didn't they make it number one?
because free speech is number one. And free speech is being assaulted in America.
Why isn't the Second Amendment stopping it?
Because if it gets that bad, then it's going to be in the streets. That's why I'm working so hard politically, because we have to solve these problems.
Ellie Reeve, CNN, Oklahoma City.
I was very surprised. I was expecting a much more hostile edit at CNN. I saw a story today about Democrats lying about their Republican candidates. It was just a headline on CNN this morning. Suzanne? Yeah. Suzanne actually checks CNN on a regular basis, and she mentioned Thursday night at our K County GOP meeting that she thinks that CNN is moving a little further to the right or towards the center. Maybe they've decided they need more than 30,000 people worldwide watching their primetime programs. Anyway, a couple of things, recent developments. I just want to mention these. There's not a whole lot of information on them yet. We'll discuss them more in upcoming meetings. But two very important Supreme Court rulings this week. Number one, they struck down the New York law, said that it violated the Second Amendment, prohibiting people in New York State from carrying a gun. This could be huge, huge. Also, I'm sure everyone's heard they also struck down, struck down is the wrong word. They eliminated Roe versus Wade, and what that bill did, it didn't make abortion legal in the United States. It made the federal government responsible for regulating abortion, and then they opened the door to, now in New York State, they're doing postnatal abortions. That means after the baby's born, they abort it. That's murder, folks. Anyway, so like I said, these are just out. This has got the left, both of these has got the left having conniption fits. It's going to be an interesting, well, there's an old Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. Folks, we're living in interesting times. One other thing, for any Trump haters, there's very many in this room, but when you talk to your friends, and a lot of Republicans hated Trump, the never Trumpers they're called. The reason we got these two friendly and constitutional rulings from the Supreme Court is because of those three judges that Trump put on the Supreme Court. Without those three judges, this would have gone the other way for sure. I was really sweating bullets because especially, the left has been picketing and threatening the Supreme Court justices at their homes. I'll bet you if the right was doing that, the police would be all over them and it'd all be in handcuffs. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that when you're talking to your friends that don't like Trump, point that out to them. All right. Also, the former vice president I saw this morning has signed the anti-gun bill that just blasted through both houses of Congress. We had, 12 or 15 rhino sellout Republicans support it. This, folks, I think this Supreme Court ruling will negate that. But who knows? We're dealing with the courts and with lawyers, and it might be years before the dust ever settles on that. But we're in a heck of a lot better shape than we were a week ago today. All right. Now, I've got one thing I want to read. A friend of mine sent this to me. He found it on Reddit. And it's something I've been saying for a couple of years. But it's time to be aware of what the other side is wanting to do. Quote, the radical Christians are found in the rural areas. Their towns are defenseless. They have almost no cops, and their firemen are volunteers. They have to borrow cops and firemen from neighboring jurisdictions miles away in order to handle anything big. And they think they're safe out there. Forget burning cities. Cities are on our side. It's time for the rural areas to feel the heat. You show up 100 deep in every rural town in a 50-mile radius intent on revolution, you'll crash their system and make them pay. And if you all think I'm kidding, I'm dead serious. This was caused by backward-ass rural conservatives operating out of a Christianized worldview. Even if they're not Christians, they're heavily influenced by it. They were the ones who voted for Trump in 2016. Those delusioned, redneck, white trash, blue collar, to quote a country song, types who flipped massively for the GOP. Punish them. Punish their towns. They say, quote, BLM burned the cities to the ground, close quote. I say, quote, let them see firsthand what it's like when a community is truly burned to the ground. They want a civil war. They should have been careful what they asked and voted for. I'm not the organizing type, but maybe someone who is can organize that. Start in a certain state in the Midwest, often called, quote, the South's middle finger to America. It's literally what the South would have looked like if it wasn't for Reconstruction. The only state, when I look at a map of the United States that looks like it's shooting a middle finger, is our dear old Oklahoma. So that's the way I read it, that he's addressing specifically for Oklahoma. I've been for 2 years at least. I've talked to our chief of police over there. I personally pushed and got a city ordinance on the books in Tonopah. I was the only one pushing it. It took about 3 or 4 months to get it through. But now you have to get a parade permit. And we're not so much concerned about the Christmas or the 4th of July parades, but if BLM or Antifa wants to come into Tonopah and do a demonstration, they've got to get a permit in advance, which gives the cops and us citizens a 3-day warning of what might be happening. Yeah. But folks, this is, I've actually been surprised this hadn't happened before. Some of the BLM and Antifa people a year or more ago were talking about just exactly this, going into rural America and making us pay. I think they might be in for a bit of a surprise, but what concerns me, Tonopah, we could have one bus pull in with 50 of these people on it. They'd pile out with baseball bats and Molotov cocktails. They could have the entire downtown area of Tonopah in flames and be on the bus and out of town in under 10 minutes. And we've got a police force that runs between 7 and 9 people. At any given time, there's never more than maybe 3 cops on duty. So anyway, just be aware that this is what they're talking about. Okay, now, let's see here. Now, we're going to get to our guest speakers. And I was blessed and I was very surprised today, Mr. John Cox, who's running for the State Superintendent of Public Education, school superintendent, the job that Joy Hoffmeister has screwed up for the last number of years. And he was in the area and he dropped in, so I'm going to let him address you for a few minutes and probably hand out some literature.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Absolutely. Well, I think I gave most of you my bio. And this is my 28th year being a school superintendent. I actually started out 36 years ago and taught math, computer science, back on the old floppy drives. Y'all remember those 5-1/4 floppies back in that day, and then I coached athletics back in those days. So last 28 years I've been superintendent and principal. And actually he described exactly where I'm at. If we need to call the deputy to come out, it takes 20 minutes for them to get out here. And so there's days I look out my window and look down the driveway coming to the school, and I know I'm the only one in front of who's coming after us if there's a bad guy coming. And I had a conversation with my secretary because she has concealed carry, and she went through that training, and we were discussing. She was thinking, well, could I bring my gun up here? And so, as you know, you have to have security guard training. So last week I sat down with a lady in Sapulpa that is overly qualified. I mean, very good with arms and the training, and goes through all the different types of shooting. And we discussed for 2 hours how we could move the current law to where it's specific to schools and allow our school personnel to train quicker within 6 to 7 days and have the training to be in school. Because I'm a firm believer that if there's a bad guy coming and I don't have a gun, we're done. You know, and then the kids behind me are done. And so I think the message sent out there, they were trying to say, oh, they want to arm school teachers. That's not what should have been said. It should have been school personnel who have been well-trained and ready to be killed or killed. You know, put their life on the line. And we have people in my school that would do that. You know, and I think it's our job, it's my job to protect our children. First and foremost, no matter if I give up my life or not. That's the way it should be. So hopefully, and with OK2A helping when I'm in there, and I firmly believe I'm going to be in there, I'm just working as hard as we can because in the polls I'm really good right now. But you just, you know, you don't trust it until it's over. But if I'm in there, we will be able to push that through the legislature because we have some very good legislators that are ready to do it right now and help us get more people that are trained in concealed carry. I don't want anybody to know who they are because I want to surprise the bad guy when they come in the building. So that's important to me. When I go across the state, security and protection of the children is the most important thing that people want to talk about, and really that's the issue. Because you can't protect the kid, if you don't protect the kids, you can't do learning. And I think in August when we come back, I'm going to have parents that are going to be concerned because they want to make sure they can pick up their child at the end of the day. And that is a real thing. I've lived through that, you know, and so I want to make my parents feel secure on what they're doing. And so I'm advocating right now for a security guard at the front gate of every school site across the state. And we're going to have $3.2 billion worth of rainy day money. And I don't know if you've heard that, by December, we'll have that much in the rainy day. And to put a security guard in front of every school would cost us $90 million. That's just a minor amount out of that rainy day money. So I think it's a great investment. But then we have to make sure the front is secure, where they can't just shoot out a window and walk in. And then beyond that, we have to have security cameras and things like that. So it's going to cost money. It's going to take an investment, but I don't know what better to take an investment in. You know, so if we can have people at our schools, and even I talked to Tulsa public teachers, and they were going, well, we have 4 flights, four floors, and they would love to have someone on each floor, a teacher that carries. That's what they're talking to me about. So I think it's real important for me to be here today because I want you all to know that that's a first initiative, and then you go on to what we can do in academics. And being a school superintendent and living it every day, I know what we can do in academics to improve that. And do away with the useless testing at the end of the year that really hurt kids and you know, it does us no good. So I want something that teachers can actually use and parents can look at during the school year with testing and change that. So, because you all know, most of you know that got kids or grandkids, at the end of the year we babysit the last week or two after we get out of testing because everybody's exhausted. Well, if we do away with testing and just do progress monitoring through the end, we can teach till the last day. And then the kids don't really figure out that they worked 2 months to pass the test. That's important to me. So safety in academics is the most prevalent thing. I just want you to know, and I wanted you to see me today because I want you to have a familiar face who's going to be in there for you all. So can I take a couple of questions if they might?
I'll tell you, I'll take 2 questions. But
Okay.
We're going to be short on time.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
How do you stand on the woke stuff?
Oh my goodness, that's the other part of security because we don't want the innocence of the child taken away from them, and there's so many things pushing in. Even those surveys that the State Department and the state health department's moving in that ask intrusive questions about their parents, about who their friends are, do they do drugs, do they have this, and just nasty. I've refused the last 15 years to hand those out. In fact, I told them that if I can give them to the parents first, and if they approve of it, I would send them out, and I never heard another thing back.
You're talking about DEI, CRT, and SEL.
It actually, these are surveys from the state asking 6th and 8th graders things about their sex life and their drug usage and just nasty.
Yeah.
And so I refused to do that, and they begged me to do it. But I wasn't going to do that because I didn't want a child reading those things. So,
do we have another question? One more question.
Yes, sir.
What's your stance on year-round schooling?
Well, at PEGS, we basically go year-round because we have a really good summer school in the middle. And so we're able to bring all those kids back. And actually last summer we had almost every child back for that time. It's different in all parts of the state, so that really should be a local control issue, because some parts of the state, those kids need to be working or they need to be doing other things, and it gives teachers time to go back for training in the summer. But by doing away with the tests that I'm talking about and doing away with test prepping, that actually adds 2 months of instruction, new instruction during the school year. So we're making the time that we had better that we have.
All right, Chuck, thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Appreciate it. Hey, nice to
If y'all would love to sign, I'd love for you to take them. And this is so important for children. Just remember that. This is important for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, John. It was a nice surprise. We'd spoken on the phone for about 45 minutes a couple of months ago. The first time we got a chance to meet you. Now, just to give you a juxtaposition, those of you that have been to other meetings, his opponent, Ron Walters, who is the incumbent, spoke at this meeting probably 3 or 4 months ago. So if you were here for that meeting, that's the other side. John, take care. Drive careful.
Thank you, guys.
And John's got an event in Oklahoma City he has to get to, so he's got to leave early.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Take care, brother.
And you can get a hold of me if you have questions. Go on Facebook and ask me. Or call me. I'll do that too.
Bye con Dios.
Yes.
Okay. Next, Mr. Gary Miles is working very closely with one of our gubernatorial candidates. It's a gubernatorial, but why then isn't he called the goobernator? I always wondered about that. Anyway, those of you that were here last month got a chance to hear his candidate, Joel Kensel, who's a sharp guy. Got a chance to get to know him pretty well at Gary's house after that meeting that day. And so he's got a short video, and he's going to speak for a few minutes about his candidate. Come on up. It's Gary Miles, VFW here at Talk a while.
Thank you, Terry. It all rests easy. I'm not running for office. I'm opposition, not wrong.
Yeah.
Before we get started, I think we all ought to be thankful that no matter who wins this governor's race and a lot of the other races, we're going to end up with a conservative, God-fearing Second Amendment proponent who is honesty and integrity. There's a lot of them out there. Thank God we don't have anybody running that's wanting to take our guns, take our babies, and take our money. I want to let you run this video if you wouldn't mind, and when it's done, I'll make a couple comments, and then maybe we'll have a minute for questions or so, or otherwise I can let you wait. We do have questions. Yeah.
One of the things that's very important to me is that we have good government in Oklahoma. And part of how you have that is you have leaders that are ethical people of good character, people that are there to serve the people of Oklahoma and not serve their own personal interests. And one of the problems that we've had over the last 4 years, in my opinion, is we've had a governor and people that are there with the governor that appear to have other interests than those of the Oklahoma taxpayer. And that is something that I will change as the governor. So I am a traditional conservative, and what I mean by that is I am socially and fiscally conservative. I like to tell people that I'm a Ronald Reagan Republican because Ronald Reagan really is my hero politically. The thing with Ronald Reagan was he was a man of good character. He was a man that loved America and put the interest of America first. He was also a man that tried to reduce the size of the federal bureaucracies. And the spirit of that is really the spirit that I want to lead in here in Oklahoma. We need to have a paradigm where there's as much freedom as possible in every sphere of human life. And as a veteran, our rights are very near and dear to my heart, and I will absolutely stand and defend those rights. As the director of ODVA, I've only ever been invited to visit with the governor 2 times. And basically at those 2 meetings, the only thing the governor was interested in talking about is basically how to privatize Oklahoma's 7 veteran centers. And he's trying to basically move the veteran centers so that they can earn profit off the backs of veterans. And I'm adamantly opposed to that. And the fact of the matter is the best approach is for Oklahoma veterans to take care of other Oklahoma veterans. We're number one. We're the only agency in state government that's achieved a top 10, much less a number one in the last 4 years. And we are number one amongst the 50 states for per capita federal benefits for disabled Oklahoma veterans. And I'm very proud of that. At this point in our history, less than 1% of Americans volunteer to serve in the armed forces. And so I'm very proud of the Oklahomans and the Americans that put service before self and volunteer to serve. Really, the only things in life that truly make you happy and fulfilled, in my opinion, is service to God and service to others. And so I want to find the folks that have that mentality and outlook to serve in Oklahoma government. I am a combat veteran, I'm equipped to lead, and I have the experience to do the job as the governor. If you need to register to vote, search on the internet for the Oklahoma Voter Portal to vote in Oklahoma.
Like I said before, we're going to get a conservative no matter who gets in there. But I don't know about you, but I want a little more than that. I'd like to have somebody in there that I think I can trust. I'd like to have somebody in there with integrity, character, and I'd like to have somebody that has the ability to sit across a conference table instead of ending up in the courthouse every time you don't agree with somebody. Joel is a litigator. He's a JAG attorney, lieutenant colonel in the Air Guard. I worked with him on the Department of Veterans Affairs now for about 18 months, and he is a fine, fine man, and there's a lot of people that work for the state in here that can vouch for exactly what I'm saying. He's a good man. I'm kind of tired of hearing people tell me where the buck stops. I'd rather know where the bucks are going. A lot of money's been spent on litigation, on battles that couldn't be won, antagonizing people. Think how many scandals we've gone through. There's just another one yesterday that surfaced. This is the kind of guy that wouldn't put up with that. It's not about getting your cronies in there to help you get rich or taking care of your buddies with favors. And it's not about taking away the commissions in Oklahoma, like the Tourism Commission, where people watched each other and kept things in line. Instead, got rid of it, put in one individual. The next thing you know, there's millions of dollars gone. He's trying to do the exact same thing with the Veterans Council, the Oklahoma Department of Veterans Affairs. What he's talking about, instead had him in, was to get rid of us 9 commissioners and let one individual run state veterans homes on a for-profit basis, privately ran. They've done that in Texas, and it's a disaster. Our veterans homes are the top 5 in the nation for quality of care, and if you ever go to one of them, you'll be very, very impressed. But Joel, I've watched him work, and if somebody doesn't agree with him, he'll sit down with them and work it out. He's not going to antagonize them, and it's not my way or the highway. So if I have any questions, anything anybody want to ask, I've got some brochures that will kind of fill out Joel's beliefs, and I can tell you that if there's something you need to know and it's not on here, I'm happy to talk to you. But I certainly appreciate your vote.
He's an open, straightforward talking man, that's my impression.
Yeah.
Questions? And Gary spoke Thursday night.
You're talking about the scandal that just surfaced, are you talking about the epic charge?
Well, if you can ask questions, say it so they can hear it.
He was talking about a scandal that came out in the last couple of days. Are you talking about the epic charter?
That's the last one that has to do with the education. The one before that was where everybody got the cars to go out and spend money on what was supposed to be educational materials for kids that suffered through COVID. It ended up going to gas grills, big screen TV.
Right.
And that, again, was because he gave all that authority to one guy, and before the guy was ever approved and appointed, he went out and set up the contract that was speaking for it. There's a thing called the rule of law. Joe Kinsel was, for 14 years, was the parliamentarian of the House. So he knows the law, he knows how it's supposed to work.
Do you think the epic charter shouldn't have been investigated? Do you think they shouldn't have been investigated?
No, I think anything that has to do with government money ought to be investigated. It's our money, we ought to know where it's going. Yes, ma'am.
I want one here.
Okay. Terry, I know you're running short on time, but Rob Vaden tell you what he just saw down there?
No.
Yes,
Okay, go ahead. We're on the loose meeting. Come on up, Rob.
Yeah, well, you were mentioning earlier that.
But just a second. This is Rob Vaden. He's an OK2A Gold member, and he's the most recently elected. Is that still correct?
Correct.
I didn't mean to slip them in on you.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
I need to know that.
No, you were mentioning earlier that you were reading that Reddit article, and if you're worried about the kooks coming here, they're already here. All right, and I sent you a picture of it. Guy flipped the flag at Perkins upside down today.
Well, folks, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. I think the country's in the most danger it's been in since 1860, 61. And at least then, they kind of had a border, north and south. Now, we're so intermixed and intermingled. These people are, well, they're not crazy, they're evil. I've said that before. They're not crazy and they're not stupid, they're evil. Everything they do makes sense if you understand they want to destroy our country, our constitution, our religion, our language, our history, and everything. Okay, now we've got one candidate for the District 3 of the K County Commission. And I have a statement from, there's 4 people running. One guy didn't even respond to me. Paul Skidmore is one of the other guys that's running. He sent me a statement. He's out of the country. Or out of the country. Paul Skidmore's statement for the District 3 Commissioner's election. As this letter is being read, Kathy and I are in Germany visiting our grandson James, born in February, and so this trip has been made previous to this forum. I think you meant plans for this trip. As Commissioner of District 3 from 2015 to 18, my office worked honestly, with integrity, and without compromise to the issues of the day. My top 3 priorities are maintain safe roadways, bridges, major and minor collector roads, signage, and right-of-ways for public use. 2, maintain equipment ready for use for any climate environment. Number 3, manage the office of District 3 in the black and oversee the county offices to do the same. He's got 3 bullet points here. Biggest challenge, staying on top of the tasks and issues and completing them in a timely manner. Hubbard Road, investigate the issues, get with the engineers, and plan an opening result. Why I am well suited for the office. Former term had left District 3 fully funded, paid in full property, and no outstanding obligations. That's Mr. Paul Skidmore, one of the candidates for the K County Commission. And this is the only one that decided to show up today. That ought to mean a lot. He's leaving. No.
I can't leave.
This is Mr. Joe Albaugh.
Just Joe.
Joe, okay.
Joe.
He's got a very impressive resume. I'm sure you're going to give him a thumbnail on that.
You can pick these up afterwards.
He lives in Blackwell, and I'm going to turn it over to Joe.
No telling secrets. No telling secrets.
Just told me
Thank
have
you
a lot of secrets.
Thank you for allowing me to show up. You're probably wondering why I'm here. One, I'm running for county commissioner. It's the largest district of the 3 districts. But what's significant here is from Hubbard, between Waverly and Union, down to Highland, that's in District 3. A lot of people don't know that. So if you don't live there, you can't vote for me. But if you know friends that can, and you have something positive taken away from this meeting, please encourage it. I just came from the field. We still farm out west of Blackwell. My family's been here, like many of your families, since 1893. We're winding up wheat harvest. We're planting milo. We're planting beans. And praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Hopefully it'll rain tonight because we desperately need it. So here's my bio. I hate talking about myself. If you have the Ponca City News today, the page 3, the bottom half, you can read about what I really want to do. Graduated Blackwell schools, first male in my family to go to college and actually graduate. Wow. Wanted to be a lawyer, praise the Lord. I didn't become a lawyer. I got it. Growing up on a farm, I learned crisis management at a very early age. So did that guy back there. I mean, if you're milking cows and the bull gets out, what do? You stop milking real fast.
and you corral that bull before something else takes place. Anyway, here are a couple of things I want to do. Get my arms around the budget. There's not a higher priority than the Hubbard Road Bridge. Been out since 2015. That's 7 years ago. Nothing's happened. What's taking so long? I know Tim Gatz at ODOT. I used to run ODOT. He's a good man. I know the engineers at the Alva District. They're the engineers that counties and cities are forced to use. That's going to be a beeline for me if I'm lucky enough to be elected and fix this Cotton Picket Bridge. Can you just think about and talk to my legislators? Oh, you're not my legislator, I'm sorry. Talk to the legislators about funding this bridge. Look at the amount of money that we're wasting if you don't live here in Ponca City, but you can go either 11 or 60 going to that side of the county. We're at these prices, it's killing everybody. There's about 600 miles in my district since April 13th when I filed for office. I've driven over half the mileage, bridges out, roads a mess, and I want to fix it. I just don't want to maintain roads. I want to improve these roads for everybody's safety. That's the biggest concern. I'd like to convene, we used to have 5 school districts in this county, we now have 4 school districts. I'd like to convene at some point the 4 district superintendents, sit down and talk about what we're going to do, if they haven't done it already, and learn lessons on school safety. What are each one of these districts doing? Does anybody know? Nobody really knows unless you have kids in school. I think it's important that every citizen in this county know what kind of shape our schools are in so we don't end up on the back end of a Uvalde situation. The bridge, back on the bridge a minute, it's not in my district, but I think it's a bigger issue. I care that it's not in my district. It doesn't matter really. I think all 3 commissioners ought to be unified on fixing that cotton picking bridge. We all need it. I'm tired of spending diesel running around trying to get it here. What else can I tell you? There are 2 types of people in my world, talkers and doers. And I associate myself with doers. You're only as good as the weakest link in your local chain. We all want to make a difference. I think we all exist to make a difference somewhere. My difference is giving back. I moved back home after traveling the world for 53 years. Golly, it went by fast. I'm not going to tell them how old you are. Anyway, I want to make a difference. I do things. Crisis management is my background. And it's real simple. You figure out the problem, you learn what the options are to fix the problem, pick one, implement it. It's a 4-step process. Okay, I've talked too long, you're short on time. Anybody have any questions? Good. Anybody have any answers?
I got all the answers.
That guy right there's got all the answers. Please pick one of these. Yes, sir. Pick one of these up, please. I just came from the field, so I apologize for my dress. This is what I look like when I dress up and actually use bars. So, yes, sir.
How is your budget, if you were elected, how is your budget funded?
Budget is funded from a variety of buckets. One of the things I'm worried about is that we don't share that information with the tax-paying citizens very well.
What buckets?
Well, I don't know all the buckets to tell the truth. I've been working at a different effort. One of the biggest challenge immediately for me to go in there is get my arms around the budget and figure out the team, the employees at District 3 Barn, exactly what they do and how we can improve upon that working relationship. Again, it gets back to approaching this as a team effort. We're all on the same team.
Now, the reason for my question is everybody in this room or everybody who's in that district would love to have Hubbard Bridge fixed.
It's going to be
I know it's already been appropriated, it's just a matter of getting it done. But other things in the county
I thought that once funded, the budget is finite. And then it becomes the commissioner's job to move the cash around to where it should be used.
A lot of those pots, you can't move that money. It's not fungible. You can't commingle funds. I mean, it's for a specific issue. I mean, they wrote a budget for the annex up here, and it was underfunded. So what they did, they took $2.5 million of the ARPA money, your money, that came from, Washington, and they backfilled that budget on HVAC. And then the cities came in and made, all the cities here in this county made a presentation to have some of the ARPA money to fund their needs, and the commissioners said, no, thank you. They then turned around and funded each district $1 million each. So out of the $8 million given from Washington, they spent $2.5 on the air conditioning and heating unit, $3 on themselves, which is crazy.
You say on themselves, what?
Well, the districts. No, on the district, so they could use it for, regular business.
Okay.
That's $5.5 million. And then they asked other offices, county elected offices, what would you like? What do you need? And that totaled another $600,000. So they're up to $6.2 million being spent. I think they ought to take balance of that money and divide it up by population for each one of these communities. It's only fair. They've already spent, 3/4 of it, and they have about $1.8 million left. That's not fair to any taxpayer in this room. And how many people knew about that? Was there any public knowledge or posting? Was there any public input? No.
So who's the they that you keep?
The 3 commissioners.
Okay.
District 1, 2, and 3. Every county, 77 counties, every county gets 3 commissioners by constitution.
So you're one, and then there might be other 2.
Well, I'm not one yet.
Well, no,
I'm trying to be.
You might be one.
I'm trying to be a lot of things. I'm running this meeting along, okay?
Okay.
Any other questions? Good. I'm still looking for answers. Anybody got an answer? Please read this, or you can go on the internet, but be careful, the interweb lies. I have, over the years, I've created a lot of enemies, but thank you. I've got to go back to cutting.
Do you have a pamphlet?
We got some back here.
Okay. All right, that's good. That's good.
There are 2.
Thank you, Joe.
You just want to see my picture, that's what you want. I understand.
Joe asked who had answers. Anyone that knows me knows I've got all the answers. It's just that simple. Right, Jay?
That's right. They agree.
Of course. Well, it's hard for not to. I'm right about everything. 2 ex-wives, and neither one of them ever got that concept grasped that I was right about everything. Can you imagine? And they both left me. I'm shocked. Anyway, references doers and talkers.
By the way, this is why Terry and I are not on TV a lot. We both have faces made for radio.
Amen to that. Take care, Joe. Good luck with the harvest.
Here are the rest of them. Help yourself. Word. Thank you all.
Thank you.
By the way, I have a box of cards on the back table. If you don't have my cards, grab one. And if you have friends that might be interested, grab one for them, or 2 or 5, whatever you need. He mentioned doers and talkers. One of my titles with OK2A is I'm the official poet laureate of OK2A, and because I wrote one poem. I wrote it for my coordinators because this is what they're dealing with in the field. Some people talk, some people do. I'm discovering who is who. Everybody I talk to has got a lot to say about liberty, but very few people will get off their butt and do something about it. Everyone in this room is a doer because you came to the meeting. That defines a doer. You're doing something to help support our liberty and our freedoms. Okay, now we got the big offices coming up. We have District 37, which is eastern K County and most of Osage, or out as far as Pawhuska, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So they have to do a little traveling. We've got 2 people running for that office. We have the incumbent, Mr. Ken Luttrell, who's spoken at a number of my meetings. I'm sure a lot of you know him. And Joe Vaden, who also he's been a regular attendee at meetings for, a year about. So what I usually do when there's an incumbent, I let the incumbent speak first. Each one of them is going to speak from their heart, and then we'll bring both of them up here and we'll take questions from the audience. And if we have a little bit of time, I might let them question each other. Maybe we can get some blood drawn. So, anyway, Ken, you want the floor first?
Thank you, Terry.
Sure enough.
Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. I'm not going to give you today my regular campaign speech, my regular stump speech. This is going to be more informative of some of the issues that we accomplished at the Capitol this year that are important to you and your families. Some of the legislation that I supported or co-authored and shepherded through this process to get made into law. I know that Terry's done a good job this year of keeping you up to date on issues that OK2A supported. So I'm sure you're all up to snuff on all those issues. I'll stay away from the OK2A issues and the Second Amendment issues and concentrate on other things that the legislature has done this year. First of all, let me start off by saying I don't have one single bad thing to say today about my opponent. Nothing. As a matter of fact, I'd like to salute him for the courage it has taken him to step out and run for office and put his family through this. It's not an easy job. It's not an easy task. And I'm sure he can echo those sentiments exactly. It's hard on your family. It's hard on your friends. But when you feel like it's your calling to serve or to answer that call, thank goodness there are people that step up and do that. So thank you, Joe, for having the courage to run. I appreciate it. To update you on the representation that I'm proud to provide you, I currently serve as the Chair of Appropriations and Budgets for select agencies, which oversees 35 state agencies. I serve you on the Higher Ed and Career Tech Committee, the Energy Committee, and Veterans Affairs. But I have a voice for you in so much more than just those committees. I also serve you as the co-chair of the Legislative Native American Caucus, the Legislative Rail Caucus, and the Rural Caucus of Oklahoma's House of Representative members. On the national level, over the past 2 years, I've attended numerous national meetings all across the United States, and I'm honored to serve you as the longest-serving appointee representing Oklahoma on the National Energy Council, which consists of all of the United States energy-producing states and Canada. On the Executive Committee of the National Caucus of Native American Legislators, and by being appointed as the Vice Chairman for Economic Development and Communications in Indian Country across the United States. I did want to take time today, as I mentioned, to discuss some major accomplishments from this session that I was proud to have played a role in on some big wins for Oklahoma, big wins for you and your family during a session where we tried to stay focused on investing in the future of our state. The legislature passed a comprehensive budget plan focused on savings and funding the core services that are important to you. I was proud to support and vote for funding law enforcement at record levels, for increasing our state's savings account to $2.6 billion, the most we've ever had in savings in our state's history, so that we're prepared for a downturn in the economy should that occur, to give us some cushion, hopefully some assistance to you all in inflation relief. We eliminated the 13-year-long developing disabled waiting list that existed with DHS. Some of the ladies that I know that work for the state involved in those programs, the passage of that literally brought tears to their eyes when the governor signed that bill. We've continued to fight federal overreach in our state. We've made generational investments in economic development, especially in rural areas. For those of you that don't realize, the legislature is divided. About 1/3 of the legislature is Oklahoma City legislators, 1/3 Tulsa, and less than 1/3 of us represent rural areas. Folks, economic development, spending, appropriations, it's a battle to make sure that rural Oklahoma gets their voices heard and that we receive our share fare and your tax dollars returned here to the communities that you send it from. I was proud to lead the charge to create a safer medical marijuana industry. We did this through multiple pieces of legislation that I co-authored aimed at rooting out the bad actors, protecting the landowners that have bad actors next to them, and the criminal elements. Believing that a good education is the key to success in our future, I was proud to have worked to ensure that we provided record levels of classroom funding, not only to our public schools, but to our community colleges and career techs also. In addition to that, I voted to address the nursing and teacher shortages through comprehensive legislation aimed at attracting and retaining the top talent in those fields and getting them out to rural Oklahoma. We passed some good legislation to incentivize those people to teach a career, to take a career in teaching, to come out back to their communities and serve in the rural areas. I'm committed to serving you, the people of District 37 and the rest of our state. To reassure you, my vote will always reflect what I believe is best for the most people based on the feedback I receive from you. Every decision I make is made in consideration of how this will affect your business, your community, your children, and your grandchildren. I want our youth to prosper, thrive, and stay in Oklahoma. There's a difference in this contest between my opponent and I. I'm the only veteran in this race, a life member of the American Legion, the Vietnam Veterans of America, and the Disabled American Veterans. I've been endorsed by the Oklahoma Public Employees Association, the State Chamber, the Oklahoma Medical Association, and I'm your endorsed candidate for this district by the NRA. I love serving you. It's my pleasure and my distinct responsibility to serve you to the best of my ability. I respectfully ask for your vote next Tuesday for faith, family, and your future. God bless you, and God bless Oklahoma.
Thank you, Ken. We're not going to have time today, but the next meeting I'll go into more detail about the OK2A bills that we got passed this year. We had 10 this year, we had 15 last year. Governor signed every one of them that hit his desk. And we're the most productive political action group in the state, most effective, and I wouldn't be surprised if we might be the most effective in all 50 states. Don Spencer is down there all the time, every time bugging the hell out of these guys to get them to vote the way we need them to vote, either up or down. We've gotten about 170 bills through in the last 12 years, and I don't have any idea how many bad bills he got killed. So, Mr. Joe Vaden, he's running for the same office that Ken has right now. Joe is our co-coordinator here in Kay County, and he's been at every one of the OK2A meetings since he came to the first one. It's been a long time. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and then we'll do some Q&A with both of them. Joe Vaden, everybody.
Well, most of you in here know me. My name is Joe Vaden. I'm born and raised here in Ponca City, lived here my whole life. My mom is from Alaska, my dad from Fort Chandler, so I am a product of this district, the entirety of this district. Luckily today, I have my wife and best friend and a couple of my kids, my mother-in-law here, and I wouldn't be here without them. They have been put up with the craziness of this whole last couple of months, and it's been an absolute blessing to have them by my side. I'm not a polished speaker like my opponent. I'm not a career politician. I don't desire to be a career politician. I'm just a regular guy looking to represent all those people out there that are working hard, living their lives. I'm looking to represent those people that worry about the same things that all of us do, about paying our bills, raising our kids, and trying to make a better life for ourselves. I spent so many years of my adult life with my head down, working for a living, raising a family. And then one day a few years ago, I looked up at the world around me and I was absolutely appalled by what I saw. Like most of us, I had no idea what I could personally do to change it. I talked to my kids, tried to get them to see their future slipping away, but like with most young people, the situation just completely escaped them. They didn't really get it. They didn't want to get it. I spoke with friends and coworkers, and like me, they had their concerns, but they also had that attitude of, well, someone else will fix it. So I started doing what I could do. I started getting more engaged. I started reading and watching, getting involved with local organizations and stuff like that. And the more that I did, the more it became obvious that we have to start at home. We have to get our own house in order before we can affect change elsewhere. We are the someone else. And that led me here today, endeavoring to become a citizen legislator. I've known my opponent for 22 years. And like I've told everyone that I've spoken to, I've always liked him, and he's a very likable person. But he's been around this office for a long time and played for both teams, and has been doing it for a little over a decade and a half. And at first, that didn't really sit well with me, but I figured it was something that I could look past. But then he also claims that I was backed by a dark money fringe organization from somewhere else in the state. And I asked him about it, and he's referring to the Oklahomans for Health and Parental Rights. I don't know if you guys are familiar with OKHPR, but this is a group that's dedicated to medical privacy, informed consent, and parental rights. And I was told by their president or whatever it is that they make their donor list public. Now, Ken talks about being endorsed by the Oklahoma State Medical Association. And they did, and they sent out mailers on his behalf. But I want you guys to understand that this is the same organization that tried to sue the state of Oklahoma and the governor after the passage of Senate Bill 658. Remember that, because we'll come back to it in a second. He claims that he's against government overreach, but expects us to ignore when he votes against a bill to remove emergency powers from the governor. He votes in favor of a bill that's the first step in tracking Oklahomans on the roadways, even if it's for a good cause. That's still, to me, a violation of our Fourth Amendment. Blocking a vote that would limit the amount of land, that Oklahoma land, that can be owned by the state and the federal government, and being the only House Republican to vote against the aforementioned Senate Bill 658, which was to prohibit schools from forcing our kids to take an experimental vaccine and forced to wear masks. Ken and I both have A ratings with the NRA and OK2A. Well, actually, Ken, I looked at the grades, and your grade is actually a B with OK2A. So, and because of the reason for that is because, like some other bills, he walked Senate Bill 2 and Senate Bill 612. And as an honorable mention, he also walked a vote for a statewide Second Amendment sanctuary bill. In case you're new here, Senate Bill 612, that was that first anti-abortion bill we passed back at the beginning of April that was sponsored by Senator Nathan Dahm and Representative Sean Roberts. And I sat and went and watched the video, and my opponent was there at the beginning. This was the first bill up. He missed the vote on it. They closed the vote at 6:50 or at 9:55, and then started the next bill or the next vote and closed it at 9:57, and he voted on that one. So we're talking a difference of 2 minutes. So I don't understand. And the same thing happened with Senate Bill 2. That's the Protecting Women's Sports Act, for those of you guys that don't know. I went back and watched the video, and he voted on the bill right before it. He skipped voting on SB 2, and then voted on the bill right after it. To me, this does not sound like the behavior of a conservative, at least not by the definition of conservatism that I understand. Now, while I may not be the most experienced person for the job, I certainly feel like I better represent the conservative values of the people of this district, and I would be honored to take our values down to the state capitol. Thank you.
After the question period, I'm going to go over the endorsements OK2A has made this year for anybody that might be interested. I've got them on sheets of paper, and they're also back there on the back table with Dr. Coe. So in fact, he has some extra copies, or you can take pictures of if you want a permanent record. Okay, we're going to open up for questions, and I thought the best way to do this, we'll have both of them up here. You can address your question to either one or to both, and I'm sure everybody's got some questions, so, right? Yeah.
Oh,
you know what? Yeah, okay, we'll do a rebuttal, and then you can rebuttal.
I hadn't decided if I was going to do those as questions or what, so.
Yeah, no, that's fine, and you'll have a rebuttal as well before we start questions.
First of all, let me address the fact that there is no classification at the state capitol for walking the vote. You either vote yes, no, or you're excused. And it's true, there are some votes that I missed on some bills that are important to my opponent. But what you don't understand is withholding your vote from a bill is one of the most important negotiating tools you have with the author of that bill. When they come to you with a bill that they need your vote on to pass and ask for your vote, that is your negotiating tool to make sure that the language in there is good for your district, is good for all the people, or to ask them to insert language into that bill that you would like to see in it. A prime example of that is the abortion bill. I negotiated with the authors of those bills and was unsuccessful in having some language inserted in there that I wanted in there. What brought that about is in this district, literally, not one single person called me from this district or contacted my office and said, please give us a total ban on abortion in Oklahoma. No circumstances accepted, exemptions, nothing, total ban. The phone calls that I did receive said, please, please, leave an exception in there for the life of the mother. Put an exception in there for rape. Put an exception in there for incest. Withholding my vote on some of those abortion bills was in order to negotiate to make sure that that language was included in the final versions of those. Of course, now all those bills are numb and gone. They're no longer in effect because the trigger bills have taken effect since the overturn of Roe versus Wade. So abortions are banned in Oklahoma, except for life of the mother, rape, and incest is still in there. Which one was that? Oh, protect women's sports. Of course, I'm a supporter of that. I raised two girls in the athletic industry. Coached girls softball fast pitch for years here in Ponca City. Traveling teams. Literally, Joe, I don't know why I missed the vote on that one. It's something that I supported, something that was important to this district. One thing that I will tell you, if someone comes to my office at the Capitol, if I have a visitor, my assistant can find me no matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing. And I will leave the floor and I will leave the votes, go to my office, go to the rotunda and meet with people that take the time and the effort to come to the Capitol from this district. It's my pleasure to serve them. It's my duty to serve them. There's only one duty that you have under the Constitution of Oklahoma as a legislator. That is to pass a balanced budget. Nothing else. You're not required to vote. You're not required to write bills. You're not required to service your constituents. Your only duty under the Constitution is to pass a balanced budget. I choose to serve my constituents and meet with them anytime that they're at the Capitol. So I think that addresses everything. So thank you.
You were making a rebuttal?
Correct me if I'm wrong. If you did miss a bill, if you missed a vote, you can go on record and say that if I would have been here, I would have voted this way.
You can't do that.
Okay.
And it's they enter the journal record.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for, I should have built in a rebuttal. All right, you know the drill for questions. Raise your hand. I'll call on you one at a time, and please get your question right away. Oh, come on. There we go. There's two of them.
I started to say we did an outstanding job.
And neither is Speedy.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you for vaccine mandates?
No, ma'am. Oh, that was the other bill. That was the other bill. Yeah, Senate Bill 658. That was the easiest vote I've ever cast in the legislature. The very easiest. And the reason is, it gave me a chance to demonstrate to everyone in this district my integrity and my truthfulness. Because I campaigned every campaign on local control, smaller government, and less intrusiveness into your private lives. That bill took local control away from your school board and put it in the hands of the legislature. The only person at the legislature that knows anything about schools down here is myself. No one at the legislature, no one at 23rd and Lincoln knows about the students at McCord Elementary, knows what's going on at Poe High, knows what's going on at Union Elementary. That bill took that control away from your local school board, who you elect and send up down over here to represent your students and grandchildren and children in the schools, and put that in the hands of the legislature. I was proud to cast that no vote and to stand on my integrity and my campaign promises for local control.
Want to address that?
Well, I can appreciate that, but I don't see how you can reconcile that with, it'd be different if it was a private institution requesting, the vaccine. But when you have a state-funded institution that is then trying to impose something on a person, that to me doesn't sound.
If you go back in time to that situation, the vaccine mandate was dropped out of all that. There was not a push to tell that your local schools could tell students they had to be vaccinated. That was never an issue in this district, never an issue with our school board or with our superintendent. It was masks. It was giving the local school districts the ability to look at half the students are out in Union Elementary. If they're going to come to school, they're going to wear a mask. They had to wear a mask on school buses. That was a federal issue because that's federal transportation. Wasn't anything we could do about that at a state level. It was completely a local control issue that our school board should be taking control of and be making the judgments and the decisions on, not people at the legislature that don't know anything about our school districts or our district.
Suzanne?
Yes, ma'am.
Probably people think I'm just a dance teacher. I've been teaching 55 years. I don't know how anyone else can say that. And I do have a degree to teach science, by the way.
Let's get to the question, please.
Where you were saying something about not taking money away from public school yesterday.
Yes.
But look at our public schools. I can tell you, I work with kids, every day, all ages. And boy, the answers I get from some of them, you die. They don't know basic things at all. In fact, last year I said, before the Chinese thing got real big, I said, when I was your age, these are high school kids, we were number one in math and science. I said, not because of me, because I was in the arts. But I said, now at that time, we were 16th and 17th.
We're not doing statements, we're doing questions. So please, if you've got a question.
Well, what can we do to make our schools more academic?
I tell you that right now, this is one of the issues that Joe and I both agree on, and we both know where the fault lies. And it's not with our teachers, it's not with our teachers' pay, it's not with our school boards and our school administrators, it is with the parents. And there's a teacher that I know and respect in this room who deals with this on a daily basis, of parents that weren't raised, or kids that weren't raised the way that many of us were, with responsible, God-fearing parents that sent us to school, beat our asses if we didn't go to school, made sure we did our homework, cared about us, wanted to see us succeed. The parental institution is at failure here. I don't have an answer for it. I don't know how to take a parent who could care less if their kid attends class, could care less if their kid goes to school, skips school, graduates, goes to college, becomes a bum. I don't have a magic cure for that. You can't incentivize it, you can't throw money at it and make it go away, you can't cure it in those ways. I've stated before that I pray for them. I pray for those kids, I pray for their families. I pray that they would become responsible parents and take responsibility for their children. Joe?
I would like to add that one of Ken's donors was my 6th grade principal who gave me SWATs.
Yes, he knows you.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. It is with the parents and with the kids. I do, however, think that there is something that we can do. And this may not be so much something we do at the legislature level. It may be the superintendent of schools or with the school boards. But we need our administrative levels at the schools to get away from this letting kids get away with everything and start instituting consequences for their actions. A lot of the problems that we have in schools are kids. They are disrespectful to not only the teachers, but they're disrespectful to the building, the desks, the chairs, the bathrooms, everything. And there are zero consequences anymore for our kids. I remember when my kids were in school and that whole No Child Left Behind thing started. And one of my kids didn't do well on a test. It was, oh, it's okay, you can remediate and take it again. Oh, you failed it again? Oh, it's okay, you can remediate and take it again. I tell you what, when I was growing up, if you failed a test, too bad, so sad. I had a college course that consisted of 4 tests. That's it. You bombed one, at best you're gonna get like a C. And that's just, we don't have consequences anymore for these kids.
Did you have a question, Elizabeth?
I better not. Okay, to answer a lot of you, yes, I do teach. Our hands are tied. We have an opportunity of about 35 minutes with the students.
Do you have a question?
My question is, where can the influence be to make the academics and education impressed on parents how important that is?
My personal feelings is get them in church, send them to Bible school, start them young. I think the most important thing is that each and every one of us can make a difference in a kid's life is by trying to be a good example. By setting that example of if you apply yourself, you work hard, you're honest, you can be successful. And showing them that in your own life. I don't know, Elizabeth, I wish I had a solution that I could put out there that 151 legislators would embrace. We could put it out in all our communities across the state and solve this problem. But I don't.
Well, again, we can't legislate morality. I mean, we can legislate the standards of morality, but it really does. It comes down to the parents. And again, the only thing that we can do is to get our schools and school boards and the administration to start instituting some type of consequences for their actions. That it's going to have to start someplace, and that is probably about the only thing that the state government or even your local government can even come close to doing. The rest of it comes down to parents.
Next question here. You brought that question of morality. How do we stop government from instituting laws for immorality? That seems to be a lot of things that we have, and a lot of the laws are actually immoral and don't help people become moral people.
For example?
Abortion. Just think, that's immoral. There's a whole thing on abortion.
I think the most impact is by taking responsibility as a private citizen, getting out there and voting for people that are going to reflect your values, your community's values. We're not going to agree on 100% of the issues or 100% of my votes. And I'm reminded of the quote from Ronald that if you support 80% of my policies and 80% of my votes, you're my ally, you're not my 20% enemy. So put people in office, send people down there that reflect your family's values, that reflect your business's values, your community values. Don't send somebody down there that is completely off the tracks. left or right, use your vote.
Bill, you want to address that?
I sure do. Give me 1 second. I have a problem.
Well, while he's digging that out, folks, also too, this is something that OK2A has been working on every year. One of the bills we got passed last year and signed was to enforce with the federal government that Oklahoma is going to be using its powers under the 10th Amendment, which what that says is that the Attorney General or the legislature can declare a federal law, regulation, or executive order unconstitutional, and that would prevent local law enforcement from enforcing it. So they'd have to send feds in to do it. Is that?
In a follow-up to that, we passed legislation empowering our Attorney General to fight that federal overreach. Plus, we funded it.
Yeah, there was money. And speaking of Attorney General, I'll cover this more later. John O'Connor. Bill, you ready to go?
Who all has one of these? Pocket Constitution. This provides us the common ground for setting what we do. We can't do always what we think is best. We need to have a common framework that both sides of the aisle work from, and this is it. So that answers that question.
What has happened to the PTA situation?
In what regard?
In the schools?
Right. Why aren't those published? I mean, are they published?
The ones that I'm familiar with, like from the schools that my kids went to, still had active parent-teacher organizations.
Oh, do they?
Still involved in their children's education and involved in communicating their ideas about curriculum to their principals and on to the school board. I can't speak for every school having an active parents organization, but the ones that I'm familiar with still have it.
But the membership of those organizations has dwindled significantly.
It's like involvement in any
Publicized
organization.
more, I think.
Well, again,
But is it published in the papers that they're having a?
How much solve that would be to attend the meetings.
Right.
They fell off drastically. There's not near as many parents involved.
But when you
We went to them, and those are the ones that genuinely care, but a lot of the others are too busy. Well, it's depending on how important it is to you.
That's right.
And so here's the next question. Now,
What do you guys, both of them can answer, unless you've got the same answer either way. But what do you think about banning phones from a classroom at least? Making them keep them in the vehicles or lock them if they're caught, put verbiage in to punish them if they're late for class because they think they got to spend 20 minutes on the phone between classes, or go to the vehicle or whatever. Because I know they're not going to ban them from the school grounds totally because people, I can't call my parent. Yeah, you can, like I did, go to the office. They didn't want to go in the office.
Your question is, should they ban them?
Ban them in the school classrooms at least, because some teachers are, afraid they're getting recorded or videoed and things, and nobody's
Ken's ready to answer.
And I understand that it's disruptive in some teachers' classes, and it's hard for them to control that. But the school administration, the school principals have policies in place to address that on when they can use their phones. I've got a grandson who's had his phone taken away before for using it during class when he shouldn't have been. I think that his mom had to call the school and be notified of that before he could get his phone back. It's a local control thing for sure with that. And I don't know, Elizabeth, how much power they've given the teachers and the instruction that's come to y'all on any recourse or?
If I may share, it is in the school book that there should not be phone usage in class during lecture. It is a battle.
The teachers think, I think the biggest part of them think it's a lost cause because they're not punished.
You have an answer?
Yeah, I do. You know me, I am 100% against the government telling me what to do.
Yeah.
So from a legislative standpoint, absolutely not. But it should be a local issue. It should be, but you gotta get the school board involved.
Yeah, I understand the frustration from the teachers.
Charles, next question?
Well, I don't know how appropriate it is as far as
You're always appropriate.
administrators. Are our administrators and teachers held back in any way from the National Teachers Union from doing what really needs to be done? And as it somehow involves our local level?
How influential is the teachers, the National Teachers Union?
In our local teachers.
I don't really know. That's not my area of expertise. I haven't had any teachers come to me and say that they felt like that they're too intrusive in visiting with the school superintendent and others in administration. Once in a while, I hear something that's contrary to their beliefs of what should be coming down from the national organization. It's anytime that you're taking orders, marching orders, suggestions, whether it's on testing, whatever the case may be, from a national level, it may not be good for your community. It may not be good for your local schools. It may not be good for the state of Oklahoma. So fortunately, we have done our best to try and leave those powers and those decisions in the hands of our local people.
You got something on that, Joe?
I'm just going to say that I would imagine that when you have an organization that large, that there is a lot of influence that goes into the daily lives of our teachers and stuff, and I don't like the idea of that. Legislatively speaking, I don't know what we could do. We could, I don't remember what state it was, or there are about a handful of states that have basically ran the national teachers, whatever, out of the state. I mean, but getting support to do that here would not be an easy task. And I don't know, I mean, part of me says that yes, that would be a great benefit, but I'm sure those organizations do some good. But I just, again, I don't trust large organizations like that. So.
Next question for Keith.
Our kids' minds are so screwed up. We talk about they don't want to kill people. We don't want them, but yet we can kill babies. You know, I mean, their minds, they don't know how to react to that. Our counselors are supposed to be counseling.
Your question?
That's it. What are we doing about our school counseling and get help for the kids?
One of the things that we have worked on in the last few years and made some great strides in that direction this year was increasing funding to common education in order to put better training into the schools, to offer training in spotting mental health problems to teachers, counselors, put more counselors in the schools. We've had some school districts, maybe with one counselor for, gosh, I don't know, a dozen schools in that district. Many of them did not have training to recognize and report child abuse, mental illness, disturbance problems, things like that. And that is one area that the legislature was able to take action in that should have a positive effect in the schools.
I am an LPC.
Okay, wait. One other question from you, and then I'll come to you.
Okay.
Okay.
It's more of a comment on the.
Okay, Kathy.
I am an LPC. I'm going to tell you in the last 5 years, I had to have my pay cut in half. They found money, they gave it back to DHS, they gave it back to teachers. I never got my money back. A 40-cent raise over a 5-year period. I also got my hours cut. Oklahoma Healthcare Authority will only allow me to bill 35 hours a week. That's not even a 40-hour week. I see people pro bono free constantly. They need to do something about the mental health. We can't have mental health in schools when people aren't
what they can do to influence
So what
that?
can they do to fix that? Because we're not going to have counselors. They're not going to work with
Okay,
that.
let them answer the question.
I hadn't get to answer the last one. Just like it, Terry. That's all right, we'll move on to this one. No, I'm just giving you a hard time. What can we do to help with that?
Yes.
I mean, honestly, I'm not there. I don't know the inner workings of that thing, of that particular thing. I'm sure it has to do with funding. but I'm sure that Ken could probably provide a little more insight.
Maybe.
One of the things I think that's going to help with that is our LOFT program, the Legislative Oversight entity that we put into existence to look into these state agencies, to make sure that they're spending the money right and doing the things that are right for their employees and right for the people they service, which is the citizens of the state of Oklahoma. I don't know if you know this, and it'll probably just make you angrier than you are.
I am.
The Healthcare Authority asked for an incredible increase in their budget. Okay. Then we've come to find out that the Healthcare Authority is sitting on a cash savings account right now, $800 million. It'll be $1 billion by the end of the year. We are sweeping some of that money away from the Healthcare Authority, and we're putting it out there for rural communities, for school security. Schools that don't have secured entrances, going to be able to afford to put that there. Schools that can't afford a school resource officer, we're going to use that money that we swept from the Healthcare Authority to make the schools safer.
And I'm okay with that, and I support that. What are they going to do about the mental health part of it? If they have the money, why are we not getting our payback? And why is everybody quitting mental health? Because they can't make a living.
So your question is, why can't they put it in mental health?
Right.
Okay.
I think part of Governor Stitt's Safe Schools initiative is addressing mental health, and not just throwing money at it, but ensuring that we have highly trained professionals out there and that they're recognized for the work that they do and compensated fairly for it. I know anyway, that you can make a lot more money in the private sector than you
But
can.
I work for Oklahoma Healthcare Authority.
Yeah.
They're paying me, I'm not making the money. Because they're paying me.
Did you want to address that?
I think it's something we need to continue to look into.
I will email.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
I'll email you.
No, I totally agree. It's a budgeting issue, and it's probably a lot of, like you said, you're going to make more money in the private sector than you are ever working for the government. One's funding.
Funding, but I think one of the big issues is it's been a lack of oversight for years and years with some of these state agencies. They haven't been held accountable. They've operated as rogue agencies in their own fiefdom, their own kingdom, with their own people, and have gotten away with just about anything that they wanted to. In calling in some of the state agencies that I oversee, looking at their budgets, some of them said this is the first time we've ever had to appear before a House committee and justify our budget. One agency, they were buying new vehicles every single year. Every year they bought new vehicles. We asked them why, and they said, well, we got to spend the money.
Yeah, or we don't get the money, the same amount of money next year.
Or we don't get the same amount of money.
We have all these agencies that don't want to be fiscally responsible with your money. Made no mistake about it, it's your money.
And I will tell you, they don't like being held accountable.
It's universal bureaucracy clear through history.
Yes.
That is an absolute fact with all bureaucracies. We've got time for one more question. Okay, we'll make it two. James, you'll be after the lady. Go ahead.
Oh, what are your thoughts on digital tracking?
That was mentioned, and there's been a lot of confusion over that, and people have said that they thought we were going to track everyone's vehicle, know where they went, know how many miles they were going, and everything. The suggestion and the study that is intended to be done with that is for people with electric vehicles to track the miles of someone, how many miles an electric vehicle is traveling, so that we can come up with a fair way for people that own electric vehicles to pay their share of road and bridge funds,
Well, I was
since they
thinking
don't pay fuel
medical,
tax.
educational, all of life, digital tracking.
No, I don't support that.
The less the government knows about any of us, the better off we all are. And I don't mean to sound like some crazy conspiracy person, but I'm just, 99% of the problems that we have in this country, this state, this town, come from three things. The lack of good family structure, the lack of morality, and the fact that the government gets its hands into things that it shouldn't get its hands into. Period. That is and now don't get me wrong, some government we need. But there are a lot of things that we get involved in that we absolutely should not get involved in. And then we end up with these different entities that have an $800 million surplus that they're hiding away behind their back, sticking their hand out, asking for more.
Yeah.
So.
We got time for one more question. Mrs. Jones.
In your oath of office, you pledge honor to two different constitutions, Oklahoma as well as the U.S. Now, everybody's got a copy of the U.S., but how can we get a certified copy of the Oklahoma Constitution that you pledge to go by, so that we can keep track of what you're doing?
You need a big space in the bookshelf.
Well, I don't care how big it is. I'm willing to pay for one, but I want to know what you're pledging allegiance to.
Is it available online by chance?
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
I've gotten several, and they don't agree with each other. I want a certified copy that I can hold your feet to the fire to.
Would that be the Secretary of State that he would need to contact to get something like that?
Secretary of State don't have it. Secretary of State doesn't have it.
We got a problem at our state capitol.
We have a
Surprised anyone, yeah.
with nobody having a certified copy of the Oklahoma Constitution, which you're supposed to go by. And
that's a good point.
Yeah,
I'll ask. I don't think I have one in my office.
well, I've had other congressmen say, yeah, they got a copy of what they go by. He'll bring it next time he comes to me. Well, he was from Osage County and never came back. But there is we've got to know what you're supposed to be doing, because that's your oath of office.
Well, they need to know. If there's not a certified copy, they know.
That might be something that we, it might be something important to find out.
Okay.
On that issue of the Constitution, I Senator Dom, I sent him a copy. If you lay the two constitutions
not a statement. We only got time for questions.
Does the legislature ever lay the two constitutions together, the federal and the state, to find out what discrepancies there are?
I don't know.
They don't even know. They don't even have a copy.
Yeah, we don't even have a copy of it, apparently.
I have a copy of it.
Sounds like accountability. How do you enforce that? It sounds like they got a problem in the state of Oklahoma. Accountability for what they're spending their money on.
That's why we instituted the Legislative Office of Fiscal Transparency. And they meet regularly and deep dive into these agencies and hold them accountable. They're responsible for finding the fiasco with the Swaddling money in the Parks and Department, and finding the hidden money that some of these agencies have stashed away, that their slush funds, their money that they just that they want to hang on to, as he mentioned, while continuing to ask for increased budgets. They're doing a fantastic job, a great job of looking into these state agencies. We may have had the power, but not the willpower for the legislature to do this before, to hold these agencies accountable. And it's part of our big push for public transparency, for the public to know where your tax dollars are gone, every single penny of it. But we're still finding places where we didn't know your tax dollars were going because no one ever reported it.
There's no checks and balances?
This is it. That's what we've done. That's what we've had to do after 100 and some years of state government, is do it ourselves.
Yeah, I do like the oversight, but at the same time, how many of you guys think about, well, the FBI investigated themselves and they found that they did no wrongdoing. So, if we're letting ourselves hold us accountable, who are we really, holding accountable? I would like to see some civilian oversight on some of these things.
Ken told me that he has to be at another event at 2:00, so he needs to leave. If you got one quick question back here, you haven't asked one.
Yeah, You got your oversight committees, you got your accountability, holding them responsible, finding this money. When you find this surplus money, who decides what happens to it?
If there's not an urgent need for it, we can hold it in reserve. The legislature can sweep it and hold it in a legislative account until it's needed somewhere else for an emergency. We can take it and sweep it to the general fund. And if it's not appropriated and spent, it stays there in a savings account also until it's needed. It's not just swept and frittered away. There has to be a purpose for it. And no one person has charge of that.
So is there a priority of who decides it's swept away and held in an account until there's a need for it? Does that get voted on?
Yeah, appropriations and budget is in charge of those decisions. Then that comes back to the full House and full Senate.
All right. Okay. We're going to let Ken get on to his next engagement. Thank you for coming, Ken. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate you.
Now, I'm going to cover the endorsements for OK2A, and then if any of you want to stand up and make a short endorsement of whoever your favorite candidate is, I'm going to open the floor to that. We'll do it just like the questions. Raise your hand and I'll call on you. Statewide races and endorsements. We've endorsed Governor Stitt in the governor's race. Attorney General John O'Connor, as I mentioned earlier, and this Attorney General race is at least the second most important one we're going to vote on this year, and in some instances it could be more important than who's in the governor's mansion. State Auditor Cindy Byrd, she's been in the news a lot lately with Cindy Byrd has been in the news a lot lately with the Epic School audit. There's hundreds of millions of dollars that disappeared, so we're endorsing her. We have endorsed Ryan Walters, the man that's running against John Cox that was here earlier. And he's done a good job, and one of the concerns is John Cox is a nice guy, but up until recently he was a registered Democrat. And that's one of the issues I've got with a lot of the R's we have down at the state capitol. State Labor Commissioner, we're endorsing Sean Roberts. He's spoken here a couple of times. He was at the last meeting. He's the big guy. He's been 12 years in the legislature. He's got an A++ grade from OK2A. He's very independent minded, and he's very liberty minded. State Treasurer Todd Russ, he's been at my Tuesday meeting a couple of months ago. He's been in the state legislature for 12 years. He's got an A+ grade. Corporation Commission, there's been no endorsements. There's 3 candidates. None of them returned their survey. But last night on his video, Don Spencer said he's personally voting for Kim David, who I believe is the incumbent. U.S. races, Kevin Hearn, he's got an A voting record. He's the incumbent. That's in U.S. Congressional District 1. None of us can vote on that unless we're in Chicago. John Bennett, A+ survey, and he was in the legislature. For a year, he was the chairman of the Oklahoma GOP. That's the seat, that's U.S. Congressional District 2, that's the seat Mark Wayne Mullen is vacating to run for Inhofe's seat. We've endorsed Wade Burleson for U.S. Congressional District 3, that's us. That's the ones we're going to be voting on here in Kay County. That's now being held by Frank Lucas, who has been up there at least 10 years too long. Frank Lucas, and Wade's talked about this, he's not on agricultural committees or anything to do with Oklahoma. He's on high tech and banking. So those are probably much more lucrative when it comes to soliciting donations for your campaigns. That's Wade Burleson. James Taylor, everyone calls him JT, U.S. Congressional District 4. That seat is now held by Tom Cole. JT was one of the 6 teachers that got fired in Oklahoma City because he wouldn't toe the mark on masks and mandates and whatnot. Sabrina Banks, I've gotten a chance to know her. She's running against the infamous rhino Stephanie Bice, who's been down there 2 years. She voted in favor of a red flag law for the U.S. military in the last military appropriations bill. She's been doing her best to distance herself from that, but that's how she voted. For James Inhofe's seat in the Senate, There's 14 people running. Our far and away endorsed is Nathan Dahm, D-A-H-M. He's an A++ grade. He's spoken at least twice here in Ponca City. He's a great guy, and he is the most conservative senator we've ever had in our state Senate. He introduced the anti-red flag bill, the constitutional carry bill. He was authors on those. He's just rock solid. He's got a wall full of awards from us. And then for the U.S. Senate seat now held by Mr. James Lankford. Yeah, that's Jackson Lawmeyer, who's spoken here twice and at Tonkawa at least once.
And then GOP wants it.
Yeah, and at the GOP. He's been here 4 times in Kay County. He's a complete novice. This is the first time he's ever run for an office, and for me, that's a plus. Lankford is, again, your classic definition of a rhino. If you've been watching the news, he's gotten a lot more conservative this last couple of months because he's got a challenger in the primary. If he didn't have a challenger, he wouldn't have gotten conservative until late September or October before the November elections. Okay, the rest of these are district judges and more local offices. Like I said, we've got these if you want to take a picture, or Glenn made some copies. He's got some back there. And we've, okay, now, everybody's got a favorite candidate. If you want to get up and pitch everybody on your favorite candidate.
I say you guys should vote for me.
There you go. Yeah. Anybody want to kick in on any of the candidates?
Probably all already on the same page.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I thought, Harold, you got something?
Well,
stand up.
Okay.
Please.
Couple of days ago, the liberty ticket got rid of Nixon by accident. We need to put them back on because Roe versus Wade is now gone. And we need them, and we finally got rid of abolishing and abortion.
Yeah. You don't have a candidate you want to pitch for? Okay, you don't have to. Wow, I'm surprised. I figured it'd be a dozen people in here that want to pitch their particular candidate. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm glad I'm at this meeting.
Thank you for coming.
I don't live in Ponca City.
That's fine.
But
Neither do I.
I'm glad I was here. But the reason I came was, the reason I just decided to come was Dr. Everett Piper.
Okay, I should have explained. Yeah, I should have explained that. Wednesday, he blew his right knee out working with one of his horses. He was in for surgery yesterday, and he sent me a text. I'm sorry, and I should have announced that. Thank you for reminding me.
Who is it?
Dr. Everett Piper. This guy is a champ. I'm hoping to get him here for a regular meeting just as a guest. He's running for county commissioner in Osage County. If you know anybody that is voting for that in Osage County, please mention him to him. He's been on Glenn Beck, he's been on Tucker Carlson, he's been on a bunch of Fox shows. He's a regular columnist with the Washington Times, the conservative Washington paper. And like I said, he offered to try and come, but I told him, I did knee surgery in January. He doesn't need to be getting up and drive. He lives somewhere over around Skytook or Tulsa area, so it'd be 2 hours in the car. So I didn't push him, and that's one of the reasons we had so many speakers today. I apologize. Thank you for bringing it up. I should have covered that right off the
Well, it
bat.
came in a little late. Couldn't find it.
Oh, you thought you'd missed it? Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
I thought maybe you had announced it.
No, I didn't, and thank you for reminding me. I've had so much going on. John Cox, I didn't know he was coming. He just came in, so I had to squeeze him into the schedule, and I had a lot on my mind, and I should have covered that. Now I apologize. Like I said, he said he will come as a guest, and when we do, I'm probably going to just have him as a speaker because I can listen to him for a couple hours.
That's what this was going to be.
Yeah. Okay.
So let us know. If
Yeah, I will.
Normally, our meetings during campaign season, we're chock full of candidates running for office, but outside of campaign season, Terry always books like a really good speaker, like Dr. Piper or someone like JC or whatever. So they'll come in and talk for about, what, like 20, 30 minutes, something like that?
Yeah,
and then do a Q&A.
You usually put it in happenings at events.
Yeah, I send it, and also if you look on the back of my card, I have 2 meetings a month in K County. That's where and when they are. My phone number's on the front, and next to my phone number says 24/7. You can call, I'm seriously, you can call me anytime, day or night, when I'm asleep, if I'm having a meal, if I'm tied up with family, if I'm in a meeting, it'll go to voicemail. Always leave me a message. I promise I'll call you back. This is my mission in my old age. You will never bother me calling me about anything to do with our liberty or constitution or legislation, my meetings, guests, or anything. Okay? So where did you come from?
Well, I went to high school here.
Oh, okay.
But I'm afraid.
Okay.
I've lived in New York City for the last 40 years.
Okay.
But I'm afraid to go back right now.
Yeah, I hear you. I spent a lot of time on Manhattan.
You know, you have never been.
The CNN crew is from New York.
I'm sure we can find you something else.
Okay, Jay, you had a remark?
Yeah, I had a question for you, 2 questions.
Marilyn, thank you for coming.
You gotta change everybody.
There's 2 questions for you. They're talking about, and I haven't read them or seen, the new gun control act has several red flag laws in it. Have you seen those? And
I haven't.
what do you compete with?
I haven't, but our anti-red flag law here in Oklahoma,
Will supersede it?
well, no, we can't supersede a federal law, but what it will do, the red flag law, well, the president signed it this morning, so it's in the works now. Our anti-red flag law here in Oklahoma, as long as the Attorney General or the state legislature, either one of them can do this, if they declare that law unconstitutional, we can prohibit any Oklahoma law enforcement from enforcing it. OHP, OSBI, police departments, sheriffs, and so forth. In other words, the feds could enforce a red flag law, but they would need to send in ATF, U.S. Marshals, FBI, or God forbid, the U.S. Army. So that's the situation with that. And the only reason we've got that out, folks, is because of OK2A getting that bill through. And that was Nathan Dahm. Remember that when you go to vote on Tuesday. Yes, Terry.
A while back, I think the subject was trying to make it where the ATF would have to go to the sheriff's department if they had an issue. If they didn't, they could approve. Did that all pass? Or
no, that didn't clear. But we're going to be back at the well on that. Legislation is about, you get what you can get this year. You ask for 150% of what you want, that way you can give away 1/3 of it and still get what you wanted in the first place. But sometimes you got to give away 90% of it. Once a law is on the books, it's much easier to go back in and toughen it up or add to it than it is to get a new bill passed. So that's where that is. I'm fully in favor of that. Yeah. Yes, Suzanne.
Contrast Cox and Walters.
Pardon me?
Contrast Cox and Walters for.
Well, Walters has got a track record and conservative. My biggest problem with Cox is the fact that he was a Democrat up till just recently. And Joy Hoffmeister, we all know what a disaster she's been for our schools as state superintendent of public education. She was a Democrat, then she's a Republican, now she's a Democrat again. I like John. Like I said, I talked to him on the phone for about 45 minutes one day, and he's a personable guy and he says all the right things. But we've all been down that road with politicians before. So that's my concern. Me personally, I'm going to be voting for Ryan Walters. Any others?
Drummond's wife donating to Bob.
Oh, yeah. Well, Drummond, there's an article. In fact, if any of you want to call me or email me or text me, I can send you the link. Muskogee News did an article about Drummond's donations, and he donated $1,000 to Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2016. He donated $1,000 to Biden. And then he got a refund on it, and he's saying, well, I didn't make the donation, my wife did, she was mad at me, blah, blah, blah. I don't buy any of that crap myself personally. Yeah, yes.
That makes it hard to vote for someone when they throw that dirt at each other.
Well,
Both of them, Connor and Drummond.
Well, welcome to politics, and let me tell you what, if the dirt is real dirt.
How do you know?
I've seen the U.S. Election Board forms for getting Drummond's donations.
All the way back to 2004.
Yeah.
18 years ago, there's records of him donating to Democratic candidates.
These are official records, and if you want to call me, or you don't have my card, do you?
O'Connor's proven, Gedner is not.
Yeah, O'Connor has, he's filed 15 lawsuits against Biden, and that alone gets my vote.
But you just never know whether that stuff's true or not.
Well, I'm telling you, it's true. If you'll text me or send me your phone number, I can text you the link for the
Well, I
article.
get your text.
Oh, okay. Well, what's your name?
Hey, Wells.
Okay, good night. Nice to put a face with a name. I can, if you'll contact me and remind me, I will send you the link to that news article, and they've got all of the official forms.
Really?
Yep. I haven't met Gedner Drummond. He was contacted if he wanted to speak at meetings, and he spoke at one of our OK2A meetings over on the west side. And the people that were at that meeting, I've had 3 of them that were there tell me that they caught him lying repeatedly.
He's on TV saying he is unanimously supported by the Fraternal Police and the Sheriff's Departments, and numerous Sheriff's Departments all over the state have come out and said they don't support him nor any of them. They stay clear of it, and they've said that out of their own mouth after
There's a law against him saying this.
Well, then we're getting into free speech, but
yeah.
But no, I have no doubts, and like I said, if we've got a friendly attorney general, he's going to be suing the people on the other side of the fence. If we have an attorney general that's friendly to those, he's going to be filing suits against our people and gumming us up. Yes, sir.
Another one for you. Based on that, the comments that you made earlier, that friend sent you that reading, that paragraph or whatever, is there anything that OK2A, new citizens can do to step up the, get you started, what do you call it, not domain, Castle Doctrine bill to include
925.
925, and that died this year. Well, that'll be at the top of our list next year, I guarantee you.
Yeah, but the burning is gonna happen before that.
Well,
Is there anything we can do?
yeah, lock and load.
Oh, I will.
Yeah. I mean, I post that on a bunch of Facebook pages, and my headline for it was lock and load, ... I sent it to our chief of police in Tonkawa and said, don't we need to get a plan together just in case? I haven't heard anything. What are you gonna do? If the police and the sheriff won't get involved, then it's gonna come down on us, and we've gotta protect our own selves, our own families, and our own property. And that's a hell of a situation to be in, but look at this. They burned down Minneapolis and Seattle and cities all over the country. I haven't heard about any of them people getting prosecuted. We had a legal free speech rally at the state capitol on January 6th, and they've still got people locked up in the basement in a dungeon in the DC jail. And I read an article from a Congress lady who got it. She finally got permission to go down and interview them. They don't allow them to shave. They don't allow them to get haircuts. They're living in filth. They won't let them talk to their attorneys. Habeas corpus is dead in America with these people.
Yeah. That's worse than maximum security.
Yes. So, and the reason they're being punished this way is because they were Trump supporters. I've seen multiple videos of the cops opening the gates and the doors, letting these Antifa people in on January 6th. In fact, I saw a picture just the other day. There's an Antifa guy that got paid $70,000 for writing an article for one of the liberal news medias, and they had a picture of him from January 6th wearing a Trump hat in the Capitol.
He was one of the guys that was in their filming spot.
Yeah.
And they paid him the money for it.
Yeah, that's right. He got paid for filming. That's right. So, folks, like I said, if you're conservative in America today, habeas corpus is out the door. And not one Republican elected official has said a thing about these guys being locked up in a dungeon. And we're talking earlier about mental health, and that's an important issue. You got to remember something, folks. In the old Soviet Union, they took dissidents, they had doctors sign off and say they're mentally ill, and they locked them up in institutions and shot them full of drugs every day. So mental health, it sounds good, but if you've got corrupt people in power, they can use that mental health issue to nail down all of the people that are dissidents to their programs. So you got to keep that in mind. It sounds good. Oh, we'll get mental health. Everybody's seen the movie, what's the Tom Cruise movie?
Top Gun.
No, where they were punishing.
Minority Report.
Minority Report.
That's a new one.
Yeah, and if you haven't watched that movie, watch it. They were punishing people, arresting them and punishing them because they were going to commit a crime in the future. Well, how in the hell do you know what's going to happen a minute from now, let alone a week down the road or a year down the road?
Yeah.
So this is something we've got to be careful of, folks. Like I said, it sounds good. What the security in the schools, all we need, and this one thing I agree with John on, and Ryan feels the same way. The only answer to a bad guy or gal with a gun is a good guy with a gal or with a good guy or gal with a gun.
Yep.
If these shootings wouldn't even happen if they knew that there were guns in that building. I'm old enough to remember we didn't have school shootings in this country until they passed a law making it illegal to take a gun onto school property.
Right.
So these little Scheißkopfs, and if you speak German, you know what I was referring to. These little Scheißkopfs, no, they get on the campus with a gun. They're the big man on campus for 5 minutes, 20 minutes. In the case of Uvalde, about an hour or more.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. 19 cops, as I mentioned in the video, they cut it. I went into this in a little more detail. Those 19 cops were ordered to stand down by their bosses. You know why? These people these evil people, their bosses, the powers that be, the deep state, they want these school shootings and they want high body counts. There's multiple studies that show the average number of killings in a multiple shooting is entirely dependent on how quick a good guy or gal with a gun gets there and puts the shooter in the dirt. And they don't want that. They did the same thing in Columbine. The authorities stood outside. This is outrageous. And I've talked to I've seen numerous law enforcement interviewed. When they're trained on an active shooter situation, they're trained to get in there now, right now. If they're the only one, they go in and try and take the guy down. And these guys stood around for an hour or more outside while they could hear that guy killing. I just saw a story just day before yesterday. There was a Hispanic woman. She got shot. She got her phone and called her husband and said, "I'm dying." He got down there and wanted to go in and get her. The cops stopped him. They took his gun and they ejected him. They wouldn't let him even stay on the property, and his wife bled to death. That's what's going on here, folks. And we need to wake up because we're losing our country. Yes, Charles.
Just leading perfectly into what you just said about losing our country, we're losing our children and our grandchildren.
Yep.
The more that I have watched the last few days about the dangers of TikTok and the information that gathers by your child or grandchild being on that site is astonishing.
Yep. Thank you
Get
for coming,
them
Gary.
off of there.
Tell Joel I said hi.
Get them, encourage them, get off of there.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's too many parents that use the TV or the computer or their phone as a babysitting service. They get the kid on that and they shut up for an hour, 2 hours. The parents don't have to be parents. That's a big problem. They just make me dictator and fix it all.
Well, and by gathering all that information.
I just wanted to mention something to Mr. Vaden. Thank you for coming and sharing. I was gonna address something to you. The one thing you did say today that I want to address, you said we can't legislate morality. That's all legislation is. And hold on, let me finish. Here's my point. We've legislated God out, we've legislated woke in. Woke is morality. It's terrible morality. But what I'm saying is, there is a place for legislators, and Oklahoma is the place to legislate morality. If it's going to happen anywhere in the country, it's going to happen here. I understand there are all kinds of limitations, but I just want to say what's happening in the schools. I've been in that high school, what kids do together. And I can tell you stories right now from 15 years ago that appall me. And I'm just saying that there has to be at some point people who stand up and say, that's it, we're gonna address that through legislation.
That's a good point.
Because the thing, I'm telling you, there's stuff going on forgive me for rambling, but there was a teacher who literally at one point 15 years ago was renting her room out on her prep hour to kids so that they could have a private place to be alone. True story, personal, the person that told me that was an eyewitness and said it was a regular happening. I'm telling you, the things that are going in there are horrific.
Yeah.
And if we don't start it, and I'm going to say one more thing, 10 seconds. I'm a businessman. I hire people. You would not believe how many people I have to go through to find one person. I had one young lady who was doing math for me and said, now which is the times button on the calculator? She was a high school graduate. And I'm saying, we've lost it. We've absolutely, thank you.
I found the solution for that. For 30 years, I ran a one-man business. I didn't have employees, so I didn't have to deal with that, and I didn't have to answer. I didn't have to depend on anybody. And I own the company, so I didn't have to answer to anybody.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of businesses you can't do as a one-man deal. I understand that. Oh, okay, folks, we're
When I said you can't legislate morality,
yeah.
I'm saying morality itself, no. The standards for morality, yes. You can't force someone to not kill someone, but you can legislate the standards for it. That's what I was talking about.
Okay.
good point. Folks, wow, it's 10 minutes after 2. Sorry to keep you so long, but we had a full meeting today. Thank you for coming. Please tell your friends. Bring a friend next time. I've got to, like I said, if you don't have one of my cards, please get one at the back table or come up and get one from me. Do you have one of my cards?
Just ordered 6,000 rounds of